Well, I'm really looking forward to this conversation, you guys. I've been waiting weeks to get at this table here and sit with you folks and have this conversation, share a little bit about our Hawaiian community here with the Minnesota folks. If you're from Hawaii, you're pretty familiar with two very important things in Hawaii, being what school did you graduate and what town did you live in. So why don't we kick it off with Trina there and share with us what town did you grow up in and what school did you graduate from?
I came from Kailua Kona, Hawaii, and I graduated from Konawaina High School, 91.
Nice. I'm T. I am from Oahu, a townie. Full-on townie. Anything west of Ward Avenue is way too west for me. I'm just kidding. I went to Punahou, yes, and ultimately finished at UH Manoa.
Oh.
And now I live in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm Henry. I was born and grew up in Hilo on the Big Island. I went to Hawaii Prep in Kamoela, graduated in '70. Went to college in Wisconsin, went back to Hawaii for graduate school, and then came back to the mainland.
Wow, I'm seeing a trend here with college graduates. I'm excited to see where this leads as we get around the table.
My name is Vince. I born and raised on Maui, went to St. Anthony High School, graduated in '87, moved here to Minnesota about 10 years ago, and attended college here in Minnesota after I got here.
My name is Matt. I grew up in a small town called Kaneohe on the island of Oahu. Went to school in Kailua, and I finished high school up here when we moved.
I'm Stacy, born and raised Oahu, grad from Aiea High School, 92, but no call me Townie. Spent a lot of time down on the west side because my grandparents lived there, so I kick it with both. And now I live Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa for 24 years. Too long.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Sandra. I was born and raised on the island of Maui. I'm an upcountry girl, Pukalani. I graduated from Maui High. I went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa on the island of Oahu. And I got my bachelor's and master's there, and that's where I lived on Oahu and taught there for 10 years.
Kermit Brown, born and raised Molokai, graduated Kamehameha.
Joe, Kailua Kona, Konawaina, class of '89.
Makana, went to Kalani High School, hung out at Farrington High School, and grad Kaimuki High School. Spent my time growing up in Palolo Valley and Kalihi.
Well, so we got a group from all over the island, different islands. I'll tell you guys something funny. I think it's funny to me. It's a fun fact. Kermit is actually my mom's classmate from Kamehameha.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a neat connection to have. What are we, 5,000 miles away from the islands? And my mom's classmate lives here, Who can describe the meaning of the shaka? I think a lot of people might hear about it, might see it on movies or TV shows. If they visit Hawaii, they might see it. But give me a description of what shaka means.
It's definitely not hang loose.
Okay.
Yes, for real.
To
Okay.
me, it's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Hello, goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we always gotta have the shaka in the picture too.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell too, like when people, if you've been away from the islands for too long. Because I had, me and a friend of mine who grew up on Maui. He lives in California now, and he caught a little bit of just some ribbing for it because he said, yeah, if you throw up your shaka and your fingers are further apart, they can tell that you've been away from the islands too long. The closer
Yes.
your fingers are together, the
I wish
more
the
you're still
same
in, the
way.
more you're still
Yeah.
in touch.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. So having people from different islands and different cities in the islands, how do you all shaka? Right there. What does it look like to you guys?
The double shaka.
Right? But it's not hang loose, dude.
No.
No,
Nothing
and it's
like
not
that.
Like you said,
Yeah.
you cannot extend
Stand
them all
them,
the
right.
way.
Don't
Don't
over-
over exaggerate
Yeah.
your shaka.
Then you know, you know you're not local when
Yeah.
it's too much.
So it's,
Or you driving down the street, you bust the shaka and you know get the shaka back.
that means stay in your lane. Don't even touch the blinker. Just keep going, right? That's funny, you know, seeing how it is, you know, from different islands and things like that. So as far as community, you know, what does community mean to you guys? When you think of the word community, Makana, what comes to mind?
It's like family.
Yeah.
You know, you got your family, right? But then you got your other family.
Yep.
That's the people in the community, the people you can count on, people you can come to when you need help, with advice, or just some place to go to hang out, have fun, right? You know that the community is always going to be there for you, and you're going to be there for them.
Yeah, yeah. Living so far away from the islands, Joe, when did you find the community here?
Oh, it took me years
Yeah.
to find the community here. I thought I was the only one here. I thought I was crazy.
What was that feeling when you thought you were the only person here?
Sad.
Yeah.
yeah.
Lonely.
Lonely, yeah.
Right? Homesick.
You know, I had my family, my wife and my kids, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I just dreamed of home every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is your wife from Hawaii?
Actually, she's from Colorado, but I raised the kids the Hawaii way.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So,
It's the same. When I moved here, I remember getting so excited every time I saw one car drive by with a Hawaii sticker in the back. I would try to chase them down to see if I could see who's driving.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same thing. Like I've just recently joined Matt's group on Facebook, and so until then, like I never really knew that there was that many
Oh, there's
Hawaiians living in the Midwest area.
Yeah, I came here by myself, so I was the only one, you know? And then I met Matt, because our kids went to school together.
But it wasn't an initial meeting. It was that typical
Yeah.
local guy walking past each other, staring like, "Man, your nose looks familiar." Oh, no way. And then you ask around, who's his
that?
kid?
Yeah.
What's her name? Oh, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
So,
One nod,
Right.
get the nod back. You from Hawaii?
Yeah.
Yep.
that's how I found you guys.
Yeah.
I was in a restaurant in Coon Rapids. And I'm looking at the guy. My wife goes, "Joe, knock it off." I give the guy the nod. He gives me the nod. I'm like, she goes, "He's going to want to fight." I'm like, "I don't care." I walk over to the guy and he goes, "Hey, you get Facebook?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Check out the frozen Ohana."
Yeah.
And I reached out
That's
to you that
amazing.
day, and that weekend you had the luau in Lakeville.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I brought
That's
the whole
amazing.
Ohana down.
Yeah.
And we've been together ever since.
Now, what year was that?
3 years ago? 4 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. You know, Frozen Ohana's going on 20 years next year, and I never thought that it would grow into what it's become. And I definitely love hearing the stories of what it provides in, you know, each individual's life. For me, it's sincerely humbling, right? I'm just a lucky one that came up with a cool name, and you know, 20 years ago myself, you know, felt alone, and it was different. You know, the transition, living here from the way we talk to the way we dress. You know, when we moved here for the Minnesota folks, it was during the 1991 blizzard. That was my first exposure to snow. You know, so we still have our bins coming from Hawaii. So we're talking about tank top, shorts, slippers, not flip flops, slippers.
Slippers.
And, you know, in the snow, during that snowstorm, and, you know, fast forward some years, growing up and really realizing how truly of a blessing it is to grow up, you know, and be born in some place like Hawaii. There's nothing like it in the world. And, you know, just to have the opportunity to spread the community has been definitely humbling. I mean, I don't have words for, you know, how it makes me feel. It's not my community. Like I said, I came up with the cool name, and you know, it's everyone together that makes it what it is and continues its growth. So,
but credit to you, Matt, because I've been here 5 years, and I was that same as you guys, right? Like, you're by yourself, you're going to this place, and I was really lucky. I did a bunch of research, and I found a halal up here, and I was like, is this real?
Yeah.
Can it be? there's no way.
Yeah.
So then I met Bobby and Glow, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, you gotta get on this
Yeah.
the frozen Ohana, and I was like, okay. I'm like, wait, there's more people out here.
Yeah.
But really, over the years, you curate and cultivate that real sense of Ohana because we're all out here,
Yeah.
and you really bring us together. There's no way I would have survived out here actually without this community.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It would be too hard. Even though I've barely met Stacy, we stay connected through the frozen,
Yes.
you know, and
Yes.
things like that. And speaking of community, okay, funny story for me. I had to move house last year because I sold my house and bought a new house, and I reached out to Matt. I'm like, is there anybody that can help me like load my truck? Like anybody. I have like 2 days. I just gotta load the truck, and it's like me and, you know, Matt shows up, Makana shows up, Colin shows up. I'm like, oh, thank you. And what did I do? I made Kahlua pig rice. I packed it on. I'm like, here, take
Little
it. Like, I
bentos
don't
to
know.
go.
Yeah, I took bentos to go because I don't know how else to say thank you
Yeah.
other than like, obviously, like my warm-hearted, like sincere thanks and mahalos. But food is how we talk.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how we say
Mahalo.
mahalo, right? Like through food. But credit
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
saying,
It's a
I
lot of work.
appreciate that.
It is.
lot of
yeah.
And I'll tell you something about tea.
Oh.
Jokingly, jokingly, we got into this hula in the snow competition, and it was on social media, right?
Yes.
And T did this video, and I sent her a message, and I said, hey, let's make this go viral. Let's give it a shot. And well, 700,000 something views later, it got on the news
In Hawaii.
In Hawaii,
Wow.
you know, so you guys are in front of world famous, you know, person here. I mean,
Star.
on this side with the college graduates that
Yeah,
went
yeah,
to
okay.
those schools, right? You know, so you know, when I think about growing up in Hawaii, a few things come to mind. Number one, the food. I mean, there's nowhere else in the food, nowhere else in the world with the food that's in Hawaii. And you know, to make it quick, the food in Hawaii really started back in the plantation days, right? When workers came from, you know, Japan, China, Korea,
Portugal.
you know, and
Rico.
coming from different parts of the world, no one could communicate, so they communicated through food. And through the years up until today, that's what creates local style food, right? There's Hawaiian food, right? And then there's local style food, right? I think about the laid back mentality, right? Nothing's a rush. Right, everywhere you go, it's a shaka. Right, if there's a lot of traffic and you got to move over, it's a shaka. It's not a blinker. It's not a hand wave. If you get that shaka, it's a go ahead. If you don't, it's a sit in your lane. Right, the beaches, the color of the water, the sand.
smell,
I remember
salt.
that the first time I went to another beach other than Hawaii was in Florida, and the thing that surprised me most was how far the beach is to the water. Does that make sense to you guys from the point that you?
And the smell. Like
Yes.
I've been on the East Coast, the West Coast, the Southern, whatever you call
Yes.
it. And it just doesn't smell the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a nice, pleasant smell. But back
Yeah.
home,
You can
it's
just
such a
jump.
nice
The-
smell.
The mist.
Refreshing and-
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
refreshing is
Yeah.
a great way to put it.
Refreshing,
And the
yeah, and
sand is
clean.
so fine, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
got that soft
The
feel.
beaches, but the beaches here in the mainland is not a beach.
It's not a beach.
It's
No.
I
ground
will
up
not
rock.
get in the
No.
water
No.
because the boys, if they get in the water, they come out the water, their Bebe's brown. I ain't going in.
But that's because that's
The
a
water-
lake.
I'm
The
right
water's
there
not
with you.
salty
That's
too.
yeah, but they call it a beach,
No,
but it's
no.
not.
Because it's a
literally
lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beach. Yeah, the
No.
first time I heard somebody say, "Oh, you can go to the beach," and I'm like, "Oh, the beach," and they're like, "Well, not the ocean." I'm like, "Okay, so I don't get it." So then, of course, my first lake beach experience, I'm like, not to be rude, but I was like, "That's dirt," and they're like, "No, that's sand." I'm like, "No, that's dirt." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I just have to be respectful of where I live now,
Yes.
and this is what they grew up with." Okay, and so then I just keep my mouth shut.
And I tell you what, it's nice to have beaches here. You know, it doesn't fulfill the full void of missing home, but when you can get to the lake, you know, and the water's moving from the
Agreed.
boats,
Yeah.
you know, and hear the sound, for me, the sound of the water
But
is
even
what
when you're
really
at the
brings me
lake,
back.
you're at the lake in Minnesota, when you got good people around you.
Yes, yes.
It
It
feels
feels
like
nice.
home.
Yes.
Right.
You know, you got the sun, you got the music, you got the barbecue going.
Yeah.
You get the plate of
feels like, it
musubi's.
feels the same.
Yeah.
That's what community is.
Yep.
You know, the cool thing about Hawaii, being in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so when you think about it 5,000 miles from here, right? What is it, a 3-hour plane ride from the coast to Hawaii?
More than that.
You're-
Five.
Five.
maybe.
3 from here to the coast, 5
Oh,
from the
yeah,
coast to
yeah,
Hawaii.
yeah.
Yep, you guys are right. You know, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it's amazing how different scenes, right? Music scene, clothing, the new trends, car scenes, things like that, seem to come out of Hawaii first. You know, I don't know whether where they're coming from initially, but it does seem like the clothing trends, the cars, the music comes from Hawaii, then it hits the West Coast, and then it moves forward. You know, it's really neat to see that coming out of an island or a few islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You know, along with entertainers, music entertainers, movie stars, athletes, things like that. In Hawaii, there's a bunch of different scenes, right? So you got the food, which we could go on and on and on about the food. You know, the car culture is really big in Hawaii, and something here in Minnesota that's really big is the car culture, right? So Minnesota hosts a car show back to the 50s. One of the nation's, if not the nation's biggest hot rod car show, right? And then we have a few other car shows and things like that. And I kind of want to get your input on the Hawaii car show scene or the Hawaii car scene versus Minnesota. So when you guys think about cars growing up, right? And we have different islands and different cities, so we're going to have a vast difference in cars. What was your dream car when you grew up, Trina? We'll go around the table real quick.
I had a Baja Bug.
Okay.
The slug bug.
Yeah,
When-
and I would. Oh, my dad used to just get so mad. I would blow that clutch all the time.
So
Living
when-
on a hill, you know, coming.
What year was it?
Oh, you got me on that one.
When we say Baja Bug, we're talking sand rails and the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay.
The engine in the back.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. When I think of bugs, I think of
that was
like,
70.
Well-
Shoot, I forget the year.
when I think of bugs, I think of the stinger pipes, right? Super trap mufflers. What was yours, T?
I definitely didn't have like a dream car, but this is what I remember.
You went to Punahou, come on.
Okay, so I walked to school. My mom strategically made sure we lived close enough to Punahou so I
Okay.
could walk. I was, okay.
So you
anyways.
had the good slippers then, right?
The
No,
locals.
we went to TNC or HIC to go get
Really?
those.
You
Yeah.
never wear the jellies or the Flojos.
The Flojo.
No, I never had the Flojo.
Black rubber.
The black
But
one.
She's
my
not buying
brother
them
was
from
five.
Long's.
My brother was 5 years older than me, and he went to school down the road at Roosevelt. And I just remember when I was like probably middle school, because he was high school.
Yep.
All of the cars were dropped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back in
Everything
the
was-
hydraulic days?
Back in the days, everything was dropped, and then when I finally went to college, went to Big Island, everything was lifted.
Yep,
Yeah.
Like
yep.
all the trucks were lifted, so you could go off-roading. I was like climbing in those, versus the drop cars.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was probably what the 90s for me.
Yeah.
90s going
Yeah.
into 2000 was all of those drop cars.
How about
I
you?
never get, yeah.
How about you, Henry?
Oh, early 60s Chevy Nova maybe.
Oh, okay.
Muscle
cars.
Yeah, muscle cars. I mean, that was kind of the deal when in the mid 60s.
Yep, yep.
Kind of when I got my license.
Yep. Big
Uh,
block or small block?
Oh, small block for the most part.
Okay.
I mean, this is Hawaii after
Yep,
all.
yep, yep.
But yeah, Krager mags, Hearst competition shifters,
Wow.
456 posi traction rear end.
Yep.
So I have a Volkswagen Bug that was actually the first car that I had, a 65 Bug.
Mhm.
It's actually still in my garage.
Wow.
Needs some work.
Wow.
But yeah, shipped over from Hawaii.
Wow.
We didn't float it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the kind of the thing, and then you have the midnight drag races down in
Yes.
Kalapana.
Yes.
There were all the neighbors came out and brought their chairs out and sat in their front yards to watch.
Yep.
Nice.
Vince, how about you?
I don't think I never really had a dream car back then, but my first car I had was my dad's old hand-me-down Datsun pickup.
Mhm.
Yeah.
72 rusted out Datsun pickup.
Which is probably
Wow.
worth 20,000 right
It
now.
was all beat up and rusted from going diving all the time and
Yep.
throwing all your gear in the bag, all the salt water in all the time, and didn't stop me from dropping it though.
Yep, yep. So more lowered stands. Stacy, how about you?
The SS Chevelle.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's beautiful and it's fast.
Yeah.
I like to go
What
fast.
color?
Huh? Black.
Black.
Yeah, black on black.
Okay, so we got a couple muscle car people. Sandra?
I never really had a dream car, but whenever I saw guys driving lifted trucks, I thought that was pretty sexy. I'd be like, you know, hey, what's up?
We talking 4-inch lift, 8, 12? I mean, where are we
I
at
don't know,
here?
I just felt like the higher the truck, the
Okay.
sexier it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the stumper tires.
Yeah,
Fat tires.
you gotta climb up that bugger to get inside.
Kermit, how about you?
I'm in the muscle car club.
Okay.
My dad had a 71 Dodge Charger, 440 Magnum in it. Going to junior prom, I got a ticket on the way there and a ticket on the way home.
A ticket for what?
Speeding.
And how fast were you going?
Couldn't have been that fast.
I mean, wait. Is our statute of limitations done now after X amount of years? They are, okay.
it's done.
How fast were you going?
Maybe 50 and 25 or
Oh, okay,
That's
okay.
kinda
Yeah,
fast.
that's
a big ticket.
Okay.
How fast can you go in Molokai?
something. No, this was
A to B?
just something about that car. It just kind of took you over.
Yeah. Joe, how about you?
I've always been into trucks.
Yep. I can
mean,
see
from
that.
my first truck was a '77 GMC with a 454 with dual Holly 850s.
Oh,
Yeah.
It would smoke a 50 Mustang like it was not even there.
Okay.
And to this day, I've got fast trucks,
Yep.
and we've got trucks that'll tow this whole building.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
So always like trucks.
Makana.
Well, I've always been into illegal street racing back home. So my first car though was a '75 Cutlass. It was all green, had a 350 motor in it. I loved that thing.
Yeah.
It was a boat, but it was fast enough for me, you know. And I remember I was in high school. I was driving on the H1 in town, and this S10 truck hit me from behind. And he hit me, I look in my rearview mirror, and he pulled back, his whole front end was smashed in. So I'm thinking, I'm dead. I'm on Dad's insurance.
Yep. How do you explain that one?
He pulls up next to me, he said, nothing wrong with your car. so you know, I just remember those
Yeah.
solid cars, you know.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then
they are.
then I progressed to lowered imports.
Yeah. You know, it's fun to reminisce about, you know, memories and what you guys remember and how it makes you feel. Fast forward to moving to Minnesota, the mainland. Talking about cars, what was your first experience driving in snow or ice like?
Oh, it was a nightmare.
Anyone
Oh
want
my
to share
gosh.
what
It's
your
a
very
nightmare.
first experience was?
I was in a little Ford Escape car with my kids, and I was coming up to a stop sign.
But you didn't stop.
Oh no!
Did you push the brake like it was gonna go through the floor?
Well, I started sliding and then I realized that it wasn't gonna stop. And then I said, move! And I started honking the horn like, move! And then at the back of the truck,
Oh.
my whole hood was like bent in. And I just immediately started crying. And then the guy came out and he says, my truck is good. You okay? Yeah. Okay. Went home. I drove my car home. And that was good.
Anyone else got a fun experience first time
Scared.
driving?
I would take like back roads.
Yep.
Because I was so scared. Like, took me like, I would take like an hour earlier just to go to work, you know. Now it's like, it's okay.
Yep,
Piece
yep.
of cake. No.
Yeah, it's definitely
I
different.
was leaving work. I was working in Egan. I was getting on 77 north from 13. So I was coming on the on-ramp, and I hit ice. And I spun out across all the lanes in front of 3 plows.
Oh,
I
man.
ended up facing the wrong way in front of the plows. The plows are trying to stop. Their back wheels are going boom, 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 trying to stop. They stop right in front of me, and they just telling me, go! So, okay, sorry.
Yep.
Where I live is so far. Like, in order to go to Walmart or any place you want to go, you have to drive far. And I would always drive slow. And it would trip me out that people would literally drive fast and I could barely like stay in my lane at times, and people would just go around me, and then later on they would be in the ditch, and I'd
ditch.
start to count how much cars were in the ditches, and I'd be like 1, 2. By the time I get to Walmart, it would probably be like 15,
Yep.
15
Yeah.
cars in the ditches. I mean,
Well, you know,
I'm
we-
not raised here, and but I knew I had common sense to go slower.
At the beginning
Yeah.
of the season, though, we have this collective amnesia.
Yeah.
How to drive in
Yes.
this. Everyone forgets.
Just
you know,
like
from
the
one
rain.
year- Yeah,
Yes.
from one year to the
Yes.
next.
Yes.
At the beginning of winter, you know, when we get ice on the roads, everyone's driving too fast, no one stops, you know, appropriately, until they suddenly remember how to drive again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was driving, I was a freshman in college in Wisconsin, driving with some friends from Stillwater,
Mhm.
to go to Colorado.
Yep.
To go skiing. First time I've driven in the winter on the mainland in, what was he driving? It was like a Camaro.
Yep.
A little yellow Camaro. Managed to spin it out on 35 W going south, facing the other direction in the median. They drove most of the rest of the way. Yeah, you not so much. Okay.
Hearing you guys talk about your experiences driving in the snow or the winter for the first time, it makes me laugh inside, thinking that, hey, you know what? Maybe they should teach that in Hawaii
Yes.
driver's education. Because I can imagine local people at driver's ed class or in class listening and thinking about this, probably not being able to comprehend it really, you know,
Yeah, how do
just
you- how do
laughing
you-
and think it's
yeah.
funny, you
How
know.
do you turn into a skid, right?
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
it's not something you
Right.
really learn in Hawaii, so.
Well,
Big
let me
Island.
correct you there, because you can learn it in Hawaii.
If you go
Mauna
off-
Kea.
Yeah, yeah.
You could.
If the
Yeah.
Because
road's
we'd always
open.
go up there and
Yeah.
fill the back of the truck with snow to bring,
bring
it
it
down to the
down.
beach. But you can go up there and drift around.
Yeah,
But when I
yeah.
first got to the mainland, I had a good friend that was like, come here.
Yep,
Let's go find
yep.
an empty parking lot. and
Yep,
You can
that's
see
how
what
I
this
learned.
thing can do.
Yeah.
And I drive professionally now, and I tell you what, that saved my life that day.
Yep.
Because I teach my guys now how to do that. If I have somebody coming new into the industry, we take them into a parking lot
Yep.
with a $100,000 truck and say, let's spin the circles around. And they're like, what? And it's like, if you can know what it's going to do now, you're not going to panic on the road.
Yep. I tell you, for me, driving in the snow for the first time was an ice experience, and you know when you push the brakes and it's not slowing down. Nowadays, I have Schmidt towing on speed dial. You know, not only does it give me a sense of security because I know that if something happens, I can call Schmidt towing, and they'll be there to help me out. But you know, just knowing that if something ever happens, we always have Schmidt towing as a resource. You know.
You know, another aspect to it too, besides snow and ice, I went to college in Oregon, and between Salem and Portland is about an hour. So some guys that lived in Oregon asked 3 of us local guys wanted to go to Portland. So we said, well, how far away is that? Well, about an hour. So we get back to a room, we start packing our bags.
Yep.
I mean, it's an hour there, hour back. We're obviously staying overnight. No, we went up there, caught a movie, ate, came home, and it like tripped us out so bad. Like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, you think about going down to North Shore, that's all day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way you're running out there, dropping something off and coming back.
I
Right,
love hearing
right.
It was
stories.
Funny, when I first moved here, my brother was like, you gotta put chains on your tires. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't think
Right,
so.
right.
Well, how do you drive? And I'm like, I don't know, because my only experience prior to that was when I lived in California. We would drive up to Yosemite to go snowboarding, and they don't really plow all the time, so you did have to stop to chain up the tires to go up the hill, though. And moving out here, I didn't know, but I
Yeah.
did the same thing. I learned in a parking lot first, and the first time there was ice on the road, I was only 1 block from my house, white knuckle. I'm like, I can't. So I called my boyfriend I was living with at the time. I'm like, can you drive me to work? We drove 3 blocks onto a main road, and it was clear.
Yeah.
But I was too scared to even try to get to that point to know. But I'm a little better now, but not much better.
Different. I guess different for me because like this is my first time actually living permanently away from home. Like I was in the military and I was stationed in Virginia and Missouri, and when I was in both of those states, it snowed during the
Yeah.
winter.
Yeah.
And I learned how to drive in the snow in Virginia at first, but it didn't really snow that deep in Virginia. But when I got to Missouri, there was a couple storms where car guys were going off the highway, and I was managing to stay on track.
Yeah.
See, I pray for storms like that.
Yeah,
I want them to go in the ditch.
Yeah,
Right.
business opportunity, there you go.
Right.
business.
Hawaii is definitely an amazing place, you know.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time to really get in depth of all that, you know, Hawaii entails, just the depth of everything, right? From being, right, to food, to cars, and, you know, the scene, the culture, everything that goes on there. As a community up here, we've grown over the last 19 years. And, you know, we've been fortunate enough to host a lot of events and bring a lot of people together. We've done Kanikapila style gatherings. We do barbecues in the summer. We go to different states. We do luau's, right? And you know, we have the hula dancers here, and they get involved with things like that. Other performances and things going on in Minnesota. Where do you guys see the community going? As we wrap up the conversation today, where do you see it going, or where would you want to see it? What direction do you guys see the community going?
I think it can only grow larger but more intimate, meaning it'll grow in maybe number of people, but as we pull together more people, it becomes more intimate
Yes.
as a community. So we're more connected.
Yep.
And I think with the pandemic, it was rough,
Yes.
right? Trying to plan, like, do we have space? Do we not have space? Can we not? But as it goes on, you know, any Hawaii people I meet out here, I'm like, the frozen Ohana,
Yeah.
and United Noodles, and Ono Hawaiian, and Lake and Irving, and Pauhana, like,
Yeah.
all the places,
Yeah,
you know?
tick down the list.
And I'm glad you bring up keeping it intimate. Through the years, that is one of the top priorities for me. Not controlling how big the group gets, because it's going to continue growing, but making sure that we keep a strong grasp on that intimacy per se. There's every week I'll send somebody a message. I'll just randomly pull up a name and just say, hey, I hope you're doing great. And I want them to know, you know, that's how it is. It's intimate. Outside of that, where do you folks see it going? Where would you want it to go? What's next?
You basically, Vegas is the 9th island, right?
Yep,
I think Minnesota should be the 10th island.
I do too.
I thought you were gonna say we're gonna go Vegas.
I know.
I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, never mind.
That would be good though, travel.
Yeah.
Travel.
Okay.
With our group.
A group.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, and then because culture is huge, and we like to teach the mainland people about our culture because they think one way,
Yes.
but it's not that way.
Yeah.
And we're constantly trying to educate people that
Yeah.
we meet.
Correct the stereotypes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Food wise, respect wise, and us as Hawaiians living in the mainland, we connect each other so tight that sometimes we're even stronger together as a family
Yes.
than our own
Own
family.
family.
It's
Yes.
crazy.
Yes.
It really is. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That's
For
just my
me,
experience.
I'm hoping that, you know, usually we draw music from Hawaii to here. And that, you know, music is so important to us and it connects us to home. But I'm hoping, like, for instance, Jay Boog, he was, I guess his music came from the mainland, right, from California, and it went popular in Hawaii. And someday I'm hoping that many of us who, for whatever reason, moved here, you know, to the Midwest, we can create music too, and in hopes that it will become popular back at home,
Definitely.
and that they would look at it as, you know, like an extension, and not just like, well, here's us and there's them, you know. I'm hoping that we would be able to just extend this and let it reach further. And I can see even like people maybe living internationally who miss home, who would like to make those connections.
Yep.
You know, to me, it's very important
Oh,
Yeah.
to have
Yep.
groups like this.
Yep.
I think you hit it with music too, but we are so fortunate out here, and I never even imagined how many Hawaiian musicians do
Come through.
concerts out here. I mean, I have been to Henry Kapono, Jake Shimabukuro, Kalani Pe'a, the Slack Key Masters, and I'm like, this is all in Minnesota. And you know what I do? I pull my non-Hawaii friends to come with me.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Do you know
to
why?
come
Experience
experience,
it,
to
yes.
understand where I come from.
Do you know why they come here?
Why?
Because you went to Punahou.
Oh.
You're on the list. So to wrap it up, one word per person. describe what the community means to you. Makano, one word. What does it mean to
Aloha.
you?
Hey, you took mine.
Yeah.
That's
That's
nice.
mine now.
Right.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Kermit,
I say freedom.
freedom.
Unity.
Yep.
Ohana.
Mine is Ohana.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I thought we all had to be different.
Nah, but we all the same, so.
Right, right.
I just
Because I would've said
I'll go with
aloha, too.
Ohana as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's Ohana.
I'm gonna go with Kuleana.
Very good.
Responsibility. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Trina.
Ohana too.
Me too. I changed mine. Ohana.
Ohana. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out today. I had a blast having this discussion with you guys, and I look forward to doing this again. It's a great time, and you know, it's a great way, like you guys said, we can get out there and teach the facts versus the stereotypes,
Right.
and continue sharing about our community with everyone here in Minnesota, and you know, all of our friends that we've made up here. There's so much to share, right? And I look forward to doing it again with you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And everybody shaka to the camera.